Hi everyone! .NET 9 has simplified API documentation with built-in support for OpenAPI. Today we'll explore this great feature and visualize our API using Swagger, Scalar, and ReDoc. As a prerequisite, we need to install the .NET 9 SDK. Let's get started. I created a new ASP.NET Core NT project on Visual Studio using the .NET version that provides support for OpenAPI documentation. So the first step is to install the required NuGet package to add this OpenAPI specification. Open a developer PowerShell command prompt and we'll install the required NuGet package, which is Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.OpenAPI. Execute. Now go to the program.cs and enable OpenAPI support. So we'll add the required services for OpenAPI called builder.services.add-OpenAPI for generating the OpenAPI document. And we'll call an extension method from the pipeline to create the OpenAPI endpoint. So we'll call map-OpenAPI method. And now we're ready to see the OpenAPI document. Run the project, navigate to the default route of the OpenAPI specification, which is OpenAPI v1.json. As you will see, this is the OpenAPI document generated, and we have all the information related with the API. With this API contract, we're ready to integrate UI tools such as Swagger. The first UI tool we'll integrate with OpenAPI is SwaggerUI. SwaggerUI provides an interactive interface for easily testing API resources. So for this, we'll open a command prompt and we'll install our required NuGet package, which is swaggerUI. Install this package. And from the program.cs file, we'll add the Swagger endpoint. So we'll add a new extension method called useSwaggerUI. And from the options, we'll specify the Swagger endpoint. So call options.SwaggerEndpoint. The first parameter is the OpenAPI file location, which is OpenAPI v1.json. And the second parameter is the title of the UI, which in this case will be v1. And that's it. The UI is integrated with OpenAPI. Run the application. Navigate to the Swagger UI. This is the default route. As you will see, we have this interactive Swagger UI for testing API endpoints. We can send a request to this get endpoint. Let's try it out and execute. And we have the default response for the API endpoint. The second UI tool we can integrate with OpenAPI is Scalar. Scalar is a modern alternative to SwaggerUI that offers an interactive playground. So we'll open the developer PowerShell command prompt and install another NuGet package called Scalar.ASP.NET Core. Execute. And to configure Scalar, we'll call a method map Scalar API reference at the namespace. And from the options, we'll define an optional parameter, which is the title. So call options.title. We'll define a Scalar API with .NET 9. We don't need to specify the open file location of our API documentation. Scalar automatically finds out this file location. So we're ready to test this UI. Execute the project and navigate to the default Scalar UI, which is Scalar. And we have an intuitive interface for developers for testing the API. So for example, let's scroll down and we have the single operation. So we can test the request I forgot to mention that we're displaying the title defined in the setup, in the configuration, and we can configure cookies, headers, query parameters, and more in this Scalar interface. Click this send button, and we have the default hello world response. The final UI tool will integrate with OpenAPI is ReDoc. ReDoc is a tool for creating clean read-only documentation pages. So open the command prompt and we'll install the required NuGet package, which is swaggerUI.asnet.core.redoc. That's good. And we'll configure redoc by calling an extension called use redoc. And from the options, we'll specify a required parameter, which is the spec URL. Options that spec URL, which is the file location of our OpenAPI documentation. I will copy the file location and we'll specify an optional parameter, which is the title. This is ReDoc API with .NET 9. Save it, and that's it. Run the project. Go to the default ReDoc UI, which is API dots. This is a read-only document page, and we have the option to download the OpenAPI specification if we want. A summary, description, or other metadata can be added to our API actions. For example, for this get default endpoint, we'll call an extension method called with summary. And define this is a written endpoint. We can also add more data like description, API action that returns a greeting. There are more extension methods to add metadata for every API endpoint. So let's run the application. If we navigate to the OpenAPI document location, look that from this new specification, we have the summary and description, this metadata associated with the default endpoint. It's also possible to view this information in any UI tool. Look that from SwaggerUI, we have the summary and the description. If we go to Scalar, the same information, the written endpoint, summary, and the description when we want to try this default get endpoint. And finally, for ReDoc, we have the summary and description. Finally, we can generate the OpenAPI document at build time. So open the PowerShell command. For this, we need to install another NuGet package, which is Microsoft.extensions.api description.server. Execute the command and open the Solution Explorer, build the solution, and from the output you will see that a document is generated named B1. This OpenAPI document is generated in an object folder. So open the Solution Explorer and we'll open the folder in the File Explorer. From this, we'll go to the object folder and look that we have this JSON file, which is the generated OpenAPI document at build time. Let's open. And look that this is the same OpenAPI document generated at build time with the summary and description of the default endpoint and with all the details. In conclusion, the new .NET 9 feature simplifies the generation of OpenAPI documents and ensures seamless integration with multiple UI visualization tools within a single API. If you want to learn more, don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.